From Los Angeles, next, Rethinking Heroes.
It's Open Phones Friday on Rethinking Heroes, but first, we're going to talk with a 5-time cancer survivor with 6 pacemakers and 120 blood transfusions and a bone marrow transplant. She's still here to talk about it, but how and why is next.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth.
All while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes, Life After the Military with Cary Harrison.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend. Don't forget, you can always check us out at rethinkingheroes.com. You can also hear us anytime on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform simply by entering, cleverly, Rethinking Heroes. I know, took years of marketing teams, staying up all night. What should we call it? How about the name of the show? Oh, so it's done. Now, you may not believe this, but I don't normally put out a disclaimer before I say anything, except that this show does render as a podcast that I mentioned before, Rethinking Heroes. It becomes an audiobook on Audible. It's just one of the relationships we have. That audiobook is then distributed in the state of Florida, where this show is illegal. It has been banned from public libraries as an audiobook because we talk about stuff. And maybe one of the people on this show in the state of Florida. And maybe another person on the show believes that slavery was a bad thing, illegal in the state of Florida. So unfortunately, your show, Rethinking Heroes, has been banned in the state of Florida, technically, as an audiobook. But guess what? It is ubiquitous and available. So when you look it up, share it, spread it, subscribe to it, you are doing the Lord's work. Now, back to my disclaimer. You're not going to believe it. Who makes the $6 million man look like a poser. And here are her bona fides. She's a 5-time cancer survivor, powered by her 6th pacemaker and a prosthetic heart valve. She's had 120 blood transfusions, a bone marrow transplant, plus an aortic pig valve replacement. Now I'm talking about Kelly Gallagher, who is proof positive how a 5-time cancer thriver can beat the odds and make lemonade out of lemons with treatment, recovery, and survival departments of the U.S. medical system. She's an advocate of what she calls merge medicine, and we'll find out what that is, and has navigated both conventional and alternative wellness protocols for almost 40 years. Having been given a one-year death sentence some 25 years ago, this former NBC executive, well, she considers every day of her life a blessing as she lobbies for non-toxic health treatments and produces films and events to... Well, cool. Kelly Gallagher, I am happy to have you on Rethinking Heroes. I think you're muted, and you probably sound better with audio.
Oh, there you go.
I was right. Full disclosure, I met you, 10, 15 years ago through a mutual friend in LA. Yeah. And then my head was swimming. Now my head is swimming more because you've done more laps.
My head is swimming from that fabulous introduction. If I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have planned better, but we're here.
Well, I am known for writing lofty encomiums, but your story is so unbelievable just because nobody knows anyone who's had more than a mosquito bite and survived. And, you're in this pantheon of superstars and superheroes, but you've learned something along the way. And I think that's the part that's interesting to most of us. Let's start with teeth. We all have them, at least on the West Coast. We all have lots of them. That was cruel, wasn't
There's
it?
so
But
many-
remember,
you're opening some big doors I can step through.
this show is banned now as an
That
audiobook.
was banned. That's what I want to talk about. Banned in the state of Florida. Are you kidding me?
I'm serious. So now he's not running for president, so I can talk freely about him. Ron DeSantis has made it a third-degree felony to have a book in a library that says anything at all about LGBT, about this, about that. He has also made it a third-degree felony to claim that slavery was unpleasant for African Americans.
Oh my God, we found a slave ship off the coast of Florida. It's alive and well. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, and he's operating it this way. There are 600 other laws he put on the books that most lawyers haven't even had a chance to get around to challenge yet. It is Berlin of 1933, and his slogan was "Make America Florida." And the rest of the country
he dropped out of that presidential race. Thank God.
Yes, agreed. So there's battles to be done, and we forget, living in our blue bubble, where whatever our blue bubbles are, that this is the real world for people, and that the folks that love the kind of intoxication of what MAGA might indicate or mean, they don't realize that they're the first ones to go into the ovens. Because at the end of the day, the people in charge want productive people who do stuff. They don't want layabouts and slobs. And if you don't check the box as a super, go get 'em kind of can-do person, you're off to the camps that Mr. Trump has announced he will build in the very beginning to put 1,000 of his political enemies in, or 1,000 camps to put many multiples of his political enemies in. And so I would consider myself probably in camp number 17. Stalag 17.
I tend to, just the word freedom these days gets you in trouble. I mean, I've been called a lot of things just for wanting medical health freedom. Like, really? So much going on.
Well, let's jump into it, because I just took you down a horrible rabbit hole, and we're both trying to figure out, where's the light? We're looking up. Where's the open to the tunnel? So
Right.
Medical freedom, and it is a controversial topic, because let's face it, we have for-profit medicine here, so you can't even begin to have a grown-up conversation. If people are making money off of people being sick, that's a world that could take years to untangle. But you've been through the worst of the worst. As I pointed out, you're still here somehow. What do you attribute that to?
Well, first of all, I think there's a lot of things, but I like to say, I had ADD. So when they told me I had a year to live 24 years ago, I couldn't focus on that. I'm like, well, it just kind of went by me, and I started working on my immune system. I've had all of those things that you talked about, 14 months of chemo and all of these things, but I also did every alternative therapy I could get, everything that was banned, outlawed, wanted by the FBI and FDA. Those are the things that generally work. If you want a really good doctor, look up Quackwatch. And most of the people that are listed on Quackwatch are actually the people who are really doing stuff. But they threaten the pharmaceutical, matrix. And unfortunately, with pharma, it's not about, market share. They want all of it. There's nothing they want left for anybody else. So they've been trying to outlaw vitamins since the 90s. Most people don't even know it. People were fighting in, the Deshay Act. They were eliminating all kinds of, just little supplements here, things here, make it a prescription, make it not easy to get. People could take care of themselves at home half the time if they had what they needed. But one by one, they're eliminating a lot of things. So I think for me, I did everything, and the basics. Sometimes we forget the basics. You're so busy drinking a Diet Coke and doing your thing, you forgot about drinking water and clean water and clean air and clean food. And that has become so difficult for people to get products that aren't filled with glyphosate. And we could go down the matrix and the cascade from farming to food to vaccines to, what's in it. And I know that word was such a hot button for people because, of course we should protect each other, but, are they protecting you? I mean, the same government you're talking about right now that doesn't want to protect you was making vaccines. And so the marketing and the propaganda and the promotion and the confusion and the getting people to fight with each other, I think, became what distracted people from what's really important. Like, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love, light, peace. If everybody did that, we wouldn't be arguing with everybody about
Well,
everything.
it'd be true, and then we wouldn't have had Shakespeare or anything fun to do, because it'd be we'd be getting along, and I'd make the shoes, and you'd cut the hair,
Kumbaya, we
right?
are the world.
I mean, it's a cool idea, and there are some first world societies. They're not perfect, but you can take a look at the Scandinavian countries, or Denmark. Highest quality of life, happy people all the time.
Happy.
Why? Because they never worry about, what am I going to get? When am I going to get to eat? Or shall I move to the sidewalk with my tent today and become Typhoid Mary and live in my own scat and shoo rats away at 3 a.m? Never, 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 never comes to their mind. Why? Because they have compelled their government to create social safety nets. So what do they worry about? Mozart or Beethoven tonight at the symphony? Now,
Well, let's move. What time can we go?
Yes. And it used to be, at least for some, that was more available in this country. Now it's like, well, do I want an AK-47 or do I want an extra bump stock, or am I going to have Dinty Moore beef stew instead of a bump stock? And
I got buffalo.
Buffalo, yes. So Kelly Gallagher, it's fun. It's like verbal tennis here, but your life is very serious here. I teed you up in this, like, you can't believe it, but it's all true. Let's jump into the part where I know you from originally, which is mercury in dentistry. And I think anybody over the age of 40 that opens their mouth and looks in the mirror is going to see silvery, shiny things in the middle of their teeth.
Yes. Well, I think that is the root, but of the problem. Many people don't know it. And yeah, I went out around the world in the early 2000s with a team of superheroes, and we were out, going to California Dental Board hearings. I was trying to do radio, and I was supposed to do this show for Sirius Broadcasting, and I got right. And now it's TV on the radio. I'm like, you still have to put on your mascara.
Thank you. You noticed.
I went to a California Dental Board hearing, and I was just incensed. I heard them, 6 people in the front of the room, while lawyers, doctors, victims, politicians were all trying to testify about the dangers of mercury and what had happened to people with these dental fillings that are 48 to 54% mercury off-gassing. And they were sitting up in front of the room, checking their phones, eating candy, and, picking their teeth. And I'm getting incensed. I went from journalist to activist and testified, excuse me, and ended up going around the world with this, team of people. And it was just, it was a huge cover up. And I think part of my journey, I might've been stepped on some really huge toes, because when we got to the UN, we realized that mercury backs up to the gold mining business. So in order to get dental mercury or mercury out of the United States, it has to transport as dental mercury. So then it ends up on the black market in South America and in Africa, where they use it for small scale mining and give it to the poor people, just like government cheese. It's like, here's your brick of cheese. It's a bottle of mercury. Go in there, pan for gold, and come out with the gold. Give us your gold. We'll give you some food and some, shekels, and you're going to go back and do it. And they die. And I don't know if it's the white man or the white woman or the whatever, but they take the money and these people die. And so the sort of racket for this, keeping these dental fillings in place, has to do with something much bigger than our health. And it was never really about health. So if you've got infection in your mouth and you've got fillings in your mouth and you end up with root canals in your mouth, you end up with infections in your mouth that correlate to every organ in your body. So on the Chinese medicine chart, every tooth corresponds to 3 or 4 different things. And you can basically see, this tooth it hurts and is infected, and it's, oh, wow, I've got a pancreas problem. It's pretty simple, like acupuncture. But why would we listen to people who have done it for 3,000 years when we can listen to somebody who's done it for 30 seconds? And that's sort of what happens,
Yeah, out of a textbook.
Right. That might be banned.
Yeah, that will be banned because why not? Why would you want to have a library, as it's now pronounced, filled with books?
Books. Who reads?
Right. I'm going to reintroduce you again, and then I want to just touch on Mercury a little more. We're talking to Kelly Gallagher, an award-winning filmmaker, a writer, a poet, international health activist, and wellness survival expert, hailing from network TV, this 5-time cancer thriver, powered by her 6th pacemaker, prosthetic heart valve, 120 blood transfusions, plus a bone marrow transplant. Kelly Gallagher successfully. I mean, you're allowed to laugh about it. I'm still trying to just get through the sentence. You've successfully navigated both conventional and alternative wellness protocols for almost 40 years. When we talk about mercury, for instance, when I get a flu vaccine, which I'm sort of compelled to do by my doctor, who's a reasonable younger guy, we agreed that it can't have any mercury in it as an adjuvant. And they put mercury in the vaccine simply to, so it'll last for 1,000 years on the shelf, not in your body. So not that I'm running after these things, but when I am compelled at certain points, stripping the mercury is out. We look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bobby Kennedy, who's got dysphonia in his voice. And he's the first to tell you it's from mercury. But not guzzling mercury, eating game fish. And when you live on off of Cape Cod and, you have a big sailboat, you're going to eat a lot of sailfish. You and I may not have that experience, but if you eat sufficient sailfish or tuna, by the way, you could end up with dysphonia as well, or myriad other problems that mercury can cause. And Kelly Gallagher was among the first to bring this to the public consciousness. And now many of us are aware of it. We may not know exactly why, but we're aware of it. Let's go further. All of these different cancers and 6 pacemakers. I mean, you've got Dick Cheney beat. Let's face it. Yeah, he's only at 4, I think. A prosthetic heart valve, 120 blood transfusions, and a bone marrow transplant. This was for what cause? Do we know?
I had Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 19 years old. So I was originally diagnosed with Hodgkin's. The vaccine controversy has gone on for a very long time. There was between 1955 and 1964, they gave out 98 million polio vaccines. And they knew at that time at the Institute of Medicine and the CDC that between 13 and 19 million of them were contaminated with something called the SV40 virus, which was simian monkey. The polio was made in a petri dish with kidney, in the monkey kidney, and they got contaminated, and it set off a rush of soft tissue cancers in the 80s. So they were like long range. 20 years later, breast cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphomas were thought to be triggered by this SV40 virus. So I've been fighting this virus my whole life. But with the Y6 pacemakers, I had 120 blood transfusions and lost my period with a bone marrow transplant. So I never lost any blood. I had iron poisoning. So in the middle of making this movie about mercury, my iron, talk about a heavy metal misadventure. I was so screwed up with iron poisoning in the middle of all these people in mercury, all these doctors, all these alternative people. Nobody caught it. And it literally, I was turning into the Tin Man. It stopped my heart. And lucky that I didn't. I was 42 and in the middle of making a movie, I was like, boom. I think there were a few factors around it, but there were a few people that wanted me gone. But literally the iron levels were 4,500. My ferritin was 4,500. Normal is between 10 and 100. So I went back to Medtronics. I said, I think I figured out why the pacemakers weren't working. And the doctor was like, oh my God, we missed it. So, there's a lot going on in these bodies of ours. They're pretty well designed. And
you, Kelly Gallagher, amidst all of this, somehow you're resilient in ways that most people would have given up or just never imagined that there was a workaround. You actually figured out every single one of them. Then you end up lobbying for non-toxic health treatments at global organizations like the FDA and the CDC, the UN, and the WHO, who And that's no small feat.
Ooh.
You clearly have faced challenges, as does anyone who even dares to put up one finger and say, I have a question. But
I have
you
an
have made,
answer.
well, you have the answer. But you do see hope in the future for the rest of us mammals here.
I do see hope. And I think that there's a lot of people that stood up. I mean, one of the reasons I'm on with you today is because I'm about to moderate the Medical Freedom Panel at the Conscious Life Expo. And there's so many people that stood up in the face of COVID, and they were doctors, that said the truth, and they got shut down by people who are in administration and people who don't have medical degrees, and we're telling them dictates from the World Health Organization, which is a private organization run by a guy who's an international criminal, really. Tedros was funded by Bill Gates for years, and the people of Ethiopia hate this man. He destroyed them, and then he went on to run the World Health Organization, and they are literally trying to take over the health of the world, which is not really a good thing. They don't know what's best for us, and we, local, it's kind of like grow local, eat local. It's better. Our doctors know how to take care of us. There's many things that can take care of us that were outlawed, because if it was continuing, they could have never made these vaccines that they made at warp speed. And, they were called a countermeasure. Well, a countermeasure is a term in war. So when the Department of Defense put out the vaccines and they were a countermeasure, it means they're a bioweapon. So there's a lot of things that people, when people have fear, people do what they have to do. And I think that we're going to find out in history that some of the things that happened weren't so good. And that is why I'm hosting this Medical Freedom Panel. And all of these people on the panel have something to contribute. And instead they got deplatformed and like, again, it's kind of like the banned books. It's like, what, we're in America, whether you believe this, or you're right, or you're left, or you're pink, or you're green, or you're gay, or you're not, or you're straight, or you're trans. We all used to be able to be that in America. And somehow in the last few years, we are like, not a good time to be white, not a good time to be gay.
Not a good time to be not anything or something.
Not anything. Like, where do I fit? I'm like,
what do you mean you're non-binary?
I'm non-binary.
I'm quadra-binary. Okay, well, you can stand over there.
I'm a tomboy. I mean, like, where do I fit? They don't have TB in there, tomboy in that category. So,
Kelly Gallagher, I have the unceremonious ancestry of having both Abraham Lincoln on my mother's side and Benedict Arnold. So it balances beautifully. Father's side, framers of the Constitution, authors of the Declaration of Independence. And part of the First Amendment reason, I was looking through some family diaries, and when they were mulling this over, the First Amendment wasn't just that the king would, be upset and you'd find your head rolling down the alley. Mystery, how it just fell off your spine that way. But they thought really that it was also part of a release valve. If the pressure gets too heavy and you never let people squawk and get in the street and scream F you at the king, then they're going to go do something about it. Right. So part of the First Amendment is just to let people say what's on their mind, and it never builds up to critical mass. So it's got a lot of utility. It doesn't matter how or what it plays out, but you can't stop it, and you shouldn't stop it, seeing as this place is based on it. So if there are discussions about whether vaccines are safe or not, let's hear them. And if people don't have critical thinking anymore, and they don't, and it's unfortunate, but we've been idiotized by our own school systems, then they're subject to myth and whatever their instincts or belief systems are. And anybody willing to bring any kind of information to let us suss it out on our own is doing the Lord's work in today's world. Right. So hats off to you, Kelly Gallagher.
Well, hats off to God, because I made a promise to God when I was having that bone marrow transplant. I was like, okay, I did a lot of bad things in the 80s. I grew up Catholic. I was like, I haven't done anything good yet. So I'm like, I promise, if you let me out of here, I'll do the right thing. But send me signs. I'm a little slow. So that's really why I do what I do. I just feel like, I'm kind of driven to be of service where I can. And movie after movie, and there's a lot of information coming out with a lot of great filmmakers. And so I'm coaching some, helping some, hosting this panel. Hope that, people come February 12th to Los Angeles. If you're there for the Conscious Life Expo, it's from the 9th to the 12th. Are you coming?
I have every intent to be there. Donna Schumann, the publicist, already reached out to me and put a noose around my neck and tied it behind an F-150, and I'm getting dragged down the
We got
street
spikes on the inside.
Yes.
Oh, you like that? Oh, no, sorry.
Let's talk for a quick second about how your health is today, given this long history and given merge medicine, which is what you're practicing now. Clearly, it's working. I see a beautiful woman in the video portion of this, which, by the way, is freely available on everything from TikTok to Facebook to wherever. It's working, isn't it?
Well, I think it's working. There's a lot of things out there. I've gone and done some stem cells in Guadalajara and Colombia and Mexico, in Tijuana. And I think some of the things that I travel and do, and from methylene blue to oxygen water to, ketone, there's so many things that you can do to be well. And I am blessed. I've got a lot of scientists that when they think something's wrong with me, they send me things. Dr. Max Langenberg right now, just darling, he sent me a package. And, it's constant. You have to really manage your life and manage your body. I think a lot of us have parasites. We have things that we can get rid of if we focus on it. And we just were never taught to do that. We were never really taught to detoxify our body. But you got a really fancy race car, you put really good fuel in it. You don't put crummy fuel in your fancy car. Why do we put it in our bodies? And the word detoxification up until a few years ago was literally a bad word. If you said detox at the hospital or Cedars-Sinai, they'd be like, ha, another one of those whack jobs is here, I'm like,
or you're just a drunk coming in for the 7-day
detox, but not that kind of detox. We're talking heavy metal detox. I had breast implants at one point. I had them taken out. In 87, out in 96, went through this huge silicone detox, mercury detox, eventually an iron detox, because I didn't even know I had that. But it's kind of constant, and I go off the deep end, eat some really amazing food that I shouldn't have. And then I'm like, oh, my fingers hurt, I shouldn't have the gluten. I just think we have to really watch what we put in our bodies, and you can do that every day. I have lymphedema, so I have to manage that, but and I have some lung issues, which I'm working on. But a lot of that's just, I had 48 radiation treatments to my chest. So I'm like, had a few things go wrong along the way. So mostly managing that, but I am a, board certified cyborg, and I have, I'm battery operated, babe.
Wow.
What I want to know is why my pacemaker battery has lasted 12 years and my cell phone battery doesn't last 12 minutes. That's what we really need to figure out.
And we will, in fact, let me make an invitation so we can actually explore that. I do a podcast, and there's only 24 hours a day on the radio, so we can't fit all the shows we'd love to do here. But I do a podcast called Reboot Your Life, and it's literally about this kind of stuff. And it's available everywhere. So wherever people get their podcasts, Reboot Your Life. If you're available this coming Monday at 11:30 Eastern, I'd love to have you on, and we'll talk a little bit more about this and flesh it out.
I would love that.
I would love it too.
I've made my 33 things I have to do for my life. We'll share those with you guys.
Good. Well, this was just an hors d'oeuvre. You'll be able to hear the rest of it, I guess, probably in about a week on Reboot Your Life. But we've been talking to Kelly Gallagher, an award-winning filmmaker, a writer, poet, international health activist, and wellness survival expert, hailing from network TV, a 5-time cancer thriver, powered by her 6th pacemaker, prosthetic heart valve, and 120 blood transfusions, not to leave out the bone marrow transplant. Kelly even you hearing that, you're laughing. Kelly Gallagher has successfully... howling actually, has successfully navigated both conventional and alternative wellness protocols for almost 40 years, with 40 more to come. And I want to thank you for having been with us today on Rethinking Heroes.
Thank you so much, Cary. You're awesome. Superhero yourself.
What a nice treat. Well, Coming up, we're going to go to the phones. We're going to take your live calls about whatever's on your mind in this seemingly upside down world, because it's Open Phone Friday next on Rethinking Heroes at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Whether it's a quirky observation, a passionate opinion, or even a burning question that's been keeping you up at night, I want to hear it. Don't let your thoughts linger in the shadows. Bring them into the spotlight. The mic is yours, my friends. What will you say? 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK.
Preventing truth decay. Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Looking to earn more money online? Well, meet Kartra, that's Kartra, the ultimate all-in-one business platform that makes it easier than ever to boost your income. With Kartra, creators, coaches, and experts can turn their knowledge and services into profits. You can create pages and funnels that attract customers, build memberships that share your knowledge, automate your business to free up your time, and so much more. Kartra has every tool you need to grow your business in one place. And the best part? It's super affordable and easy to use. Are you ready to streamline and scale? Well, head on over to rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial. That's rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial.
Rethinking Heroes.
Are you familiar with Riverside Recovery of Tampa? Well, they offer a profound, all-embracing approach to addiction treatment. With a dedicated team of empathetic professionals, Riverside Recovery is committed to guiding individuals on their path to enduring recovery, using a variety of science-backed therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery values the individuality of every recovery journey. Their tailored treatment plans respond to the specific needs, the hurdles, the goals of each resident, providing effective aid regardless of whether you're taking your first steps in recovery or maintaining your progress. With Riverside, recovery isn't just achievable, it's an influential journey towards a healthier, brighter future. The testimonials of those who've undergone treatment there are evidence of rediscovered self-worth and potential. Located on the tranquil Hillsborough River of Tampa, Riverside serves as a peaceful haven, promoting self-discovery and healing. They acknowledge that recovery is about more than just overcoming difficulties. It's also about finding your innate strength and resilience. The Riverside Recovery's committed team are your empathetic allies in your recovery journey. They comprehend that genuine healing involves the mind, the body, and the spirit, meticulously dealing with all facets of addiction. You can discover more at rrtampa.com. That's rrtampa.com. Or reach out at 1-800-871-5440. That's 800-871-5440. 800-871-5440 or rrtampa.com.
We are in complete control. We are Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend. Don't forget, you can visit us anytime at RethinkingHeroes.com. Also, sign up for our free newsletter. We've got, we're up to like 10,000 people now. And this week, I'm going to be sending out copies of the video version of this. I had to figure out the technology because it keeps changing, but getting better. So we're going to be able to send video and audio and some behind the scenes stuff, and also invite you to other things that we simply can't and don't have time to do on the radio. Go to rethinkingheroes.com, sign up for our free newsletter. Okay, time to open up the phones. Let's embark on a journey of thoughts, ideas, and the incredible tapestry of the human mind, as in your mind. Rethinking Heroes is not just it's not just a broadcast, it's a conversation. It's a dialogue. It's a space where your voice matters. Now, life gets hectic and we're all racing against time, caught up in the whirlwind of our daily routines. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly felt heard? When was the last moment you shared your thoughts, your joys, your concerns with the world? So when in doubt, dial out 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. If you've ever had that light bulb moment, a realization that made you pause and go, wait, I need to share this. Well, this is your chance. Time to share your mind, and let's weave a symphony of ideas together, because the mic is yours, my friend. What will you say? Let's go to Rick in Los Angeles. Rick, you're on Rethinking Heroes.
Great show, Cary. I'm glad that you're on, and you really give it a great spin, and you're really on the money. And I want to talk about this massive murder that's going on with these vaccines, which are not vaccines, they're bioweapons. And we need to actually start enforcing the Nuremberg Code and start holding these people accountable and taking them down. And I have the process to do that. And I've been using it for 20 some years, and it's a very simple process. It's called administrative procedures. I don't know why I'm getting all this feedback, but anyway, I hope I'm being heard.
You are being heard, and I do thank you so much for that, Rick. Just a rider on that. I can't say what's in the vaccines because I don't know. We've had on Professor Francis Boyle, who's the man who put together the 1978 anti-weapons conventions that were codified by the U.S. government, that were ratified by the President of the United States, George Bush the first, a series of these, and even he can't get into the chemical compositions. But we do know that because those are being withheld, for some people do have reasonable questions to ask. And I think as a customer, I kind of want to know what's in my Diet Coke. And at least the Coca-Cola company has been compelled to tell me that part. It's not unreasonable to have Pfizer and Moderna do the same. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's reasonable to know what's in it, and I think that's what you're getting at. Thank you so much for your call, my friend. Let's next go to Nancy in Brentwood at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Nancy, you're on Rethinking Heroes.
Oh, okay, great. Listen, I was wondering if your guest has ever been to Cuba. Cuba had a COVID vaccine, which was made different from the Pfizer and Moderna and other vaccines out there. Also, it's not patented, so it's free. And of course, we got this blockade against Cuba, which is very unfortunate for so many reasons. And, I say Viva Cuba, but the vaccine they call, I think the first one is called Solidarity in Spanish. And it's made the good old-fashioned way. And, they're much more, they don't want, since it's not made for profit, they want to make vaccines that are safe. And it's apparently a very effective COVID vaccine. So I was wondering if you knew anything about that, your guest.
She's actually left us. However, I could tell you that I did a 60-second feature for a couple of years called Corona Alert that was on commercial stations because one day I was listening to the radio and I noticed there was nothing talking about the coronavirus that was killing people everywhere. This was at the time when the President of the United States said it was a hoax. Hospitals were overflowing and corpses were being put in ice cream trucks because those were large refrigerated vehicles that were plentiful at the time. And it was pretty appalling. And the Cubans had within the first couple of weeks come out with one of these vaccines. And I remember covering it and I got pulled. They yanked me off of YouTube at the time, was pretty aggressive about you mention anything, the color yellow, bam, you're pulled, you're canceled. The radio stations were good with it because it was a reasonable assessment of an alternative protocol, but it seemed to be working and it was made from natural protocols. That's not to say mRNA is not good, because if it can actually do something for HIV and a variety of other cancers, which it is earmarked to do, and it ends up having a positive effect overall, who doesn't want that? The problem is the secrecy, where we have too many questions, and we shouldn't have that many. It's just like taking an aspirin. It's made out of willow bark. Somebody showed us what it was. It's like, then you can, as a grown-up, make a choice. But if no matter what, you're going to hide it from somebody, why? And it's more than just the patent. It's clearly more than just a financial interest. Let's go to Gary in LA. You're on Rethinking Heroes.
Yes, thank you very much. Cary, I've got to congratulate you on a great show for many months too. I've heard it. I have a question about whether you've heard of Cancer Control Society. It's an event run by a gal called Lorraine Rosenthal, and she has it on Labor Day weekend. I've been to it for about 20 years, and I found it very educational. And I certainly plan, and thank you very much for telling me about this event in LA from the 9th to the 12th in February, Conscious Life Expo. I didn't know anything about that. But do you know about Cancer Control Society?
No, I don't.
Oh,
other than extrapolating what it means. So give me the quick upload.
Yeah, well, the title is cancercontrolsociety.org. I think you've got .com now. Anyway, it's always been held at places like Universal City and now in Glendale on Labor Day weekend for 4 days. They bring in doctors from all over the world. And unfortunately, she hasn't had it for the last 3 years because of COVID. But anyway, you'll find all about it on that website.
Let me recommend.
I don't know about it because it's been going on, as I say, for 30 or 40 years. I've been going it to most years for 20 years, and it brings in doctors from all over, as I said.
That sounds cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explore that. Maybe that's something we do virtually as a webinar, which I can put together, and as many people that want to go can observe it, do Q&A. I think it's awesome, especially during a time when people have all kinds of interesting cancers that never existed before. I think you'll remember as a child, if someone said brain cancer, you'd say a brain can get cancer. And then we found real connections with aspartic acid and phenylalanine that's in Diet Coke, the artificial sweetener in there, aspartame, and other connections. But in this country, it's ubiquitous in 120 products. And we can thank Mr. Rumsfeld, formerly the head of GD Searle, or one of those large pharmaceuticals, getting together with Ronald Reagan after it was banned in the 1980s, aspartame, because it was so toxic. It was a neurotoxin really invented by the Germans in World War II. And they brought it back. And when you mix those three molecules together, it has the side effect of being sweet. And if you lower the dose, it just acts as a sweetener, but it's still a neurotoxin, an excitotoxin. And the deal was, Mr. Rumsfeld, we will allow you to bring this back onto the marketplace, but in return, you bring us the evangelicals. Once again, politics crosses money, and then it becomes on the table. It's in chewing gum and everything, and we're still battling with it. So I very much appreciate your call, my friend. I am going to look into it, and maybe there's a webinar we can put together. That opens up the line at 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735, 818-985, KPFK. Cary Harrison here with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. Let's go to Dave in Venice. Hello, Dave.
Not the Gary Harrison that plays bass in the Talking Heads, but you rock. Let's see. I appreciate your show, and I do have a mouthful of mercury, and but I'm taking care of it in my own way and very as holistically as I can. And that was a great show. And Jerry, all I wanted to do was call and complain. I went to the Code Pink demonstration when we walked along Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I was wondering why we were not included in the parade. I came really early, and I was ostracized because I had my own little megaphone and I was shouting things that they weren't shouting, but they were still very topical. And I was treated like I was an outsider. And I've got creds that you wouldn't, street creds that you wouldn't believe in demonstrations. I would never do anything to harm a demonstration. But I saw many things, including people being pushed. The people that were carrying the KPFK banner were being pushed, and they were bunching everybody up. Never took any breaks the whole route. We went by a Starbucks. We went by a McDonald's. We never took a break. I know it sounds like bitching, but and I thought, okay, I'm gonna withdraw my funding because of that. But then I thought, no, I'm gonna increase my funding because that would my monthly contribution to KPFK, which I urge everybody to do. I'm a senior and I give monthly, and I urge everybody to help support KPFK, of course. But the bottom line is that it sounds like a bitch, but
well, I listen. I appreciate what you've said, and I get it. And I wasn't there, but it's like if somebody throws a dinner party, they get to play the music they want, they get to serve the food they want, and it's kind of their rules. And it's hard to know what those rules are until you show up. But you did show up, and that's what matters. You showed up, you were seen, you support KPFK, you get a gold star on your fanny, my friend. You did good. So thank you, and thank you so much for your call. I very much appreciate it. Cary Harris with you. We're going to pause for just a second. Let me give out the numbers again. We have time for a few more calls. 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Are you juggling multiple tools to run your online business? Well, thankfully, there's a better way, and it's called Kartra. Kartra. With Kartra, boosting your income has never been easier. That's because it's the ultimate all-in-one platform for online success, offering every tool you need to grow. Imagine building pages, funnels, courses, autoresponders, and checkouts all in one place for one affordable price. And the best part about Kartra is that you can automate anything. So it's like having a team of experts working around the clock to help you earn more. Ready to streamline and scale? Well, visit rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial. That's rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Rethinkingheroes.com.
Are you familiar with Riverside Recovery of Tampa? Well, they offer a profound, all-embracing approach to addiction treatment. With a dedicated team of empathetic professionals, Riverside Recovery is committed to guiding individuals on their path to enduring recovery, using a variety of science-backed therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery values the individuality of every recovery journey. Their tailored treatment plans respond to the specific needs, the hurdles, and goals of each resident, providing effective aid regardless of whether you're taking your first steps in recovery or maintaining your progress. With Riverside, recovery isn't just achievable, it's an influential journey towards a healthier, brighter future. The testimonials of those who've undergone treatment there are evidence of rediscovered self-worth and potential. Located on the tranquil Hillsborough River of Tampa, Riverside serves as a peaceful haven, promoting self-discovery and healing. They acknowledge that recovery is about more than just overcoming difficulties. It's also about finding your innate strength and resilience. The Riverside Recovery's committed team are your empathic allies in your recovery journey. They comprehend that genuine healing involves the mind, body, and spirit, meticulously dealing with all facets of addiction. Riverside Recovery is your haven, providing a continuous stream of hope, nourishing the seeds of long-standing change and rejuvenation. Discover more at rrtampa.com or reach out at 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440.
Preventing truth decay.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you. Don't forget, you can go to rethinkingheroes.com, get our free newsletter where you'll get a copy of the video portion of this broadcast today. You'll be able to see Kelly Gallagher, an extraordinary survivor of the impossible. You'll be able to see other stuff, and you're going to get all the other information that we simply cannot fit and are not allowed to fit in the radio. And as you know, this program is banned in many states in the United States now because it renders into an audiobook through Audible. And these books are banned in places like Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. So basically all across the Deep South, your Rethinking Heroes is banned. So when you do hear it as a podcast in any place where you get your podcasts, make sure you share it freely, especially through the South. It would be such a lovely courtesy. We're doing Open Phones Friday. Let's talk next to Donna in Santa Monica. You're on Rethinking Heroes.
Good morning, Cary. I am here in my cave repainting the walls, but I had to take this opportunity to really praise thee. I have been following you for such a long time on KPFK, back 10 years and more, when you would just be on for a little bit, and it was your voice and your vocabulary that I appreciate so much. So that's form, and now the content of what you've done with this Friday morning show. I got so much out of this delightful Cary Gallagher this morning, and you managed to hit the nail on the head over and over again with topics that are really important to me and to everyone. I will also mention in the past when you've brought people, I think women especially, on who had a totally different, totally alternative view of finances and money and looking at that sort of thing. And then the actual heroes, military people. But anyway, Cary, I just love you. I love your voice. I love your vocabulary and doing a fabulous service.
Thank you, Donna.
You do.
And I won't let you go on further because people are throwing up and wrenching right now. At least some will be. Others will be like, she's right. But I'm going to make you the caller of the day because I'd be stupid not to after that call. And I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, Donna.
Right back at you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. That opens up a line at 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. Let's go next to Dr. Hall or Hal in downtown LA. You're on Rethinking Heroes.
Howdy, Cary.
Hey there.
This Gallagher woman sounds like a real champ, and I'd like to back up the previous caller who mentioned Dr. Lorraine and the Cancer Control Society. That's a first-rate organization. I've attended their seminars, and it's just terrific. It's an important resource. The fact is that we found up through the years, we discovered through the years that conventional cancer treatment is pretty close to 100% worthless, and we have alternatives now. As a matter of fact, there was work by Dr. Otto Warburg almost a century ago, and then more recently by people like Dr. Thomas Seyfried, that have demonstrated that cancer is not primarily a genetic disease. It's actually a disease based on the dismantling of a dismantling of energy metabolism on a cellular level. And there are a bunch of things a person can do to help reverse that. I'll just mention a few. One is the use of antioxidants, using a ketone diet, addressing the body's pH, and then a recent development, a chemical substance known as PQQ, which seems to be kind of a magic bullet, silver bullet, because it seems to directly address that problem in the mitochondria, have to do with energy metabolism. So conventional cancer therapy is junk. It absolutely is. And we really do have alternatives these days. You just have to keep an open mind and, see what you can find.
I appreciate that, my friend. I one of the things that I do in the summer is I lead cultural tours around the world, take people to places they can't get into on their own, leveraging public radio to get into, say, the Nazi bunkers, 5 stories underground, things like that. And I had a guest, and this was just last fall. And on the last day, he said, this is goodbye, which I knew it was goodbye because we were all leaving. He said, but I won't be around in 3 months. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I have terminal cancer and I'll be gone in 3 months. And I said, is that what they told you, 3 months? He said, no, I'm Canadian and I actually scheduled my death because in Canada, they have made medically assisted death through intervention, death, whatever it is. The Canadians will, in effect, euthanize you so that you don't have to suffer through the last stages of any kind of acute illness. So he's actually put it on his calendar for February the 18th and has written a book about it, which I can't give the title yet because it has to be published posthumously. But we did the book interview yesterday with his death date being 3 weeks from today. And it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done because it wasn't like a regular book tour. And frankly, I have no training on how do you talk to somebody who's going to die in 3 weeks on a date. It's like a death row prisoner, except it's a different kind of thing. And, you know, he had the same questions, but he also lives in a Western atmosphere where they just offered him radiation and chemo, and that was it. And sort of no other alternative thinking. Not that we know that 100% of the time alternative thinking works, but as we heard from Kelly Gallagher with her bone marrow transplants, 5 times surviving cancer, serious chronic acute cancers, and all of the other things, that there are things you can do that really matter. So I do appreciate the openness and awareness that you have just brought forward.
Thanks for your show.
All right, my friend, take care. That opens up a line, 818-985-5735, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. We're doing Open Phones Friday here as we finish up the show. Earlier, we talked to Kelly Gallagher, who is an award-winning filmmaker. She's a poet and now become an international health activist after staying alive 40 years longer than any doctors told her she should be. She comes from network TV, from NBC. She's survived cancer 5 times. She's on 6 pacemakers, has a prosthetic heart valve from a pig, and has successfully navigated both conventional and alternative wellness protocols for these 40 years, and is dealing with endless myriad other issues right now. One of the reasons she has the pacemaker, she pointed out, was she lost her period during some of the treatments, and part of the menstrual cycle is to flush iron. And if you're not flushing the iron, it builds up, and that caused heavy metal toxicity as well in her. So it's quite a story. I'm going to do a podcast with her, really long form, about this on Reboot Your Life, which you can find wherever you get your podcast. Go check them out. They're filled with this kind of stuff, and we'll have that. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. I believe we are at the end of the clock. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. We're going to do more open phones down the road. I actually love it, and I think it's very important that you feel heard, and that it isn't a one-way signal as much as it sometimes feels like it is. So when the phones are free and available to do this, you can count on my commitment to do it with you.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Life after the military. RethinkingHeroes.com. Copyright Audiences United, LLC. All rights reserved.